Folks, I thought I'd do a quick follow-up video now that the little DIY mini practice amp project is basically complete. And just in review, this is a little mini practice amp that's full featured. It's got it's all tube design, point-to-point construction, featuring push-pull phase inverter into a full class AB power section. The only real difference from a bigger amp is that the power section uses EF80 power tubes, which are little pentodes, and the amp is a common cathode bias design, which makes a whopping 1.4 watts. But it's designed to feel and play like a regular amp. And this past weekend I did finish the cabinet, which I made out of 1/2-inch plywood, and kind of keeping with the DIY mantra, I just basically used simple hand tools, battery powered skill saw, some clamps, glue, a stapler, and some sandpaper and basically some elbow grease. And then I Tolexed it yesterday and finished putting it together, and as you can see, my dog already stepped on it. While Tolexing, all the good advice was to start with a fresh sharp blade in your utility knife, and so yep, can say that my utility knife was sharp, and it makes it hard to hold the pick. But let me just show you around the amp here. So on the inside of the amp is a 6-inch Weber Alnico speaker, and the cabinet is pretty plain Jane. Let me get it centered again here. So after completing the project, what I usually do for any amp that I design is kind of voice it and tone shape it based on the cabinet, if it's combo, or the most likely speakers that sound good with it. But here, because the speakers, there's not a whole lot of choices, I think, for 6-inch speakers, and I was curious to see how a little speaker would hold up compared to the original benchtop demo that I previously posted. And I didn't know if I would need to make any changes to the tone stack or the gain structure. What I found was the little 6-inch speaker was having a little trouble handling the extra gain in the first two stages, where I had a 12AX7. So what I did very simply was swap 12AX7 for a lower gain preamp tube, 12AT7, and that actually took care of the issues that I had very nicely, and I didn't have to make any changes to the actual circuit design because the lower gain actually opened things up very nicely. What I did notice was, because it's solid state rectified, it felt kind of stiff, and what I ended up doing to kind of get that little bit of squish when you hit something was I put a sag resistor in the center tap of the secondary high voltage output from the power transformer. And what that is designed to do is kind of replicate the plate resistance of a tube rectifier, and kind of was trying to emulate maybe a gold standard like Blackface Deluxe Reverb, where there's a GZ34 pushing power into two 6v6s, and that little 180 ohm sag resistor actually reproduced that fairly nicely. So what happens is, without going into great detail, if you hit something hard, there's a current demand on the rectifier. The rectifier, because it has a plate voltage, will have a voltage sag, especially when there's a demand for more current. And what that does is actually pulls down the voltages on your power tubes, and especially that screen resistor. So the combination of the grid stopper resistor on your screen, designing that with a little bit of power supply sag, gives you that kind of nice squishy thing without overdoing it. So there's a little bit of squish and compression if you hit something hard. Again, kind of the summary of the design is very simple, something that fits into a small footprint. This chassis is only 7 inches wide. And I have some basic controls here, volume, tone, and volume out for my headphone and line out jack. So let me turn this guy on. And right now I have, this is just straight in, and I've got a Strat here. And the first thing I'll do is nothing. And I think the cool thing is it's hard to tell if this amp's even on, and that's actually a good sign. I was a little concerned when I was designing it that, you know, with higher gain 12AX7s, you know, they're pretty sensitive to, I think, lead dress and especially filament wiring. So I was careful to make sure I had good lead dress on the filament wiring. And the other thing I did, I think probably that made the biggest difference, was I elevated the filament heaters with a DC lift. And so you can't even tell the amp's on, which is great. So my goal design-wise was I wanted to have something that did really good cleans with good harmonic overtones. There's a lot of practice amps that are commercially available. I think, you know, they probably all do something that's really great, but in order to really replicate the feel of an all-tube amp, it probably should be all-tube. So this one was point-to-point, all-tube, kind of old-school construction. And there's, of course, a debate, you know, with lots of different opinions on whether you should prioritize clean tones or distorted tones. In this amp, I wanted to prioritize the clean tones because personally I think that it's a lot easier to make, you know, if you push a clean tone with distortion like a pedal or something like that, it sounds cooler than if you have a great distortion amp but you try to get cleans out of that, then usually you're a little bit disappointed. So what I have going here is just a Strat, and I'll just play some chordal stuff so you can hear the difference between the pickups. And I think that's kind of a neat thing with a good amp, that you get, you know, real good separation in all the pickups that you're playing. So any guitar that you pick up and play should sound like a different guitar. And I'm starting with neck pickup, and then I'll go neck to middle, and then I'll go middle, and then I'll go middle bridge, and then I'll do bridge. And then here's neck middle. And here is middle. And here is middle bridge. And lastly, bridge. Pretty cool. And then the other thing that I wanted to maintain was that you can ride the volume knob on the guitar and kind of go from a little bit crunchy to clean, and I'll try to demonstrate that here. So this is the volume dimed, and then if I just ride the volume down just a little bit, I can get good clean. I think it does that really nice, and it takes pedals good. I'm going to throw on a little bit of reverb. There's not much here. You can hear it. There's nothing there, and then with a little reverb. So not much, and it makes things kind of come alive. stoked about that. And then I'm going to push the volume up a little bit on these single coils, and again, kind of just riding the volume knob, I can get kind of get a nice fuzzy kind of stuff. And I think the little mod that I made just to kind of give a little less stiff feeling actually turned out pretty good, because it's still snappy, but it kind of squishes good. So I'll try to show you that here. Whoops, turn the volume up. So pretty stoked on that. And then what I'll do is I'm going to pop the gain boost here, which I designed, and then I'm going to back my regular volume off a little bit. And the way this is designed is so that we're getting the power tubes to really start fully saturating just after about noon on the volume pot by design. And then by adding a little gain boost, all I'm doing is just pushing the preamp a little bit harder. So let's see what that sounds like. So I kind of like that. Right on. So what I've done now is I just grabbed Les Paul, and then for humbuckers, what I'll do is I'll pop this back so that the extra gain's not there, and then I'll have the volume, not super high, but with the Les Paul, it crunches up nicely. So pretty stoked. If you end up deciding to do this, my guess, well, first of all, it's not super hard. I think I'll do another video and I'll go over kind of the design and the schematics and geek out a little bit. But even if you're just to build it straight up, if people are interested, I'll on that next video I'll post maybe some suggestions if on tag board stuff if you wanted to build a little tag board, and also kind of some suggestions, lessons learned after building this. But I think it'll be a fun little amp and kind of useful. It takes the pedals really good, and hope you enjoy it, especially if you build it. Thanks a bunch.